This is Unit 2.01, a lecture, and the purpose of the lecture is to demonstrate how to create a custom class and use it in C#. Okay, we have a program here in the movie theater project, and I'm running it for you to show you what it's supposed to do. We have patron type, adult, and child. We have the time of movie with a list box of matinee and evening. And then we have a text box for number of tickets sold. And so if I come up here and I say we have 2 adult tickets for the matinee, and I click on the button, and then I say, okay, we also have 3 child tickets for the matinee. It gives me a total for all the tickets. All right, so the way we're going to do this is we're going to create the form, and then we're going to make a special class for the transaction. I call mine ticket transactions. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create the class, and to do that we go to our Solution Explorer and right click over our project and go to Add Class. All right, and it's on class, so we just give it a name, Ticket Transaction. All right, remember those always start with the uppercase letter. All right, so we're here. Now this particular class is going to have, in the list box, we're going to create those using an enumeration. All right, and to do that, to create an enumeration that's going to be used as a field, we go ahead and we go above the class level and we create the enum first. So that's what I'm going to do. Enum time of movie. And then we're going to say our times of movie are matinee and then evening. Okay, we have one more enum, and that is going to be for the patron type, for adult or child, or child. Okay, now that we have our enum set up, we can use those as a field for our class. And so we're going to start with patron type. All right, and that is we're going to call it is an enum patron type, so we give it, a public access modifier. And then we're going to name the variable ticket type. And we're going to make auto implemented properties for each of our fields. Okay, so we've got our enum patron type. They're going to have an int for number of tickets. And remember, you always want to give your fields very descriptive names if possible. Okay, so got to spell public right. Oh, I'm trying to use spell check. Okay, and then we have one more enum. Oh no, but let's go ahead and do the double for cost of ticket. And then finally we have the enum time of movie. We're going to call that time. And then we do a get and a set for our enum variable. Okay, now that's all of our fields. And let's just go ahead up here and put in a comment that we are declaring fields. Okay, and then we're ready for our constructor, since we've auto implemented our getters and setters. And we always say public and just the class name, which is ticket transaction. And this time what we're going to do is we're going to pass in the type and the time, and I'll show you how that is done. Okay, so we're passing in 2 enums in our constructor, and the way you do that is you tell it what to expect. It's going to be a string in both cases for the movie type or the patron type and the time of movie. All right, so now we're going to set our all of our fields And we have ticket type equals. Now, what we want to do is we want to make sure we can parse the patron type that we passed in. The string type that we have in our parameter should be either from our list box should be adult or child. All right, but we've got to make sure that it can parse to a value in the enum. So we're going to tell it what we want to. We want to cast it to a patron type. All right, and then we do this. We do enum dot parse and type of, and we're going to say it's a type of a patron type, and we're going to use the type we passed in to try to parse it to. Okay, so what that does is it's going to take this and make sure that it can parse it into one of those two values. All right, now let's see, number of tickets. We are going to set that to default. And then also we're going to say time, same thing, equals, we have to cast it to a time of movie. And we're going to do enum dot parse type of, and this time it is time of movie, and we're going to make that the movie time variable. Oh, I didn't spell movie right, so I need to go ahead and take care of that. Okay, the only thing we need is the cost of ticket, and that is going to be set to 0, default value. So this is our movie theater class, and that's all we need to use right now for the class. We have the fields and we have the constructor. Now that we have our transaction class created, or ticket transaction class created, we're ready to write our program. We're going to calculate on the button click, so we're going to double click it. Okay, now the first thing we need to do is we need to get our information from our list boxes. So the type of movie, adult or child, was on a list box that I called list type. Whoops, misspelled. And then the time was in a list box called time. And then also we had number of tickets. Whoops. And right now we're just going to assign that to 0 because we're going to have to do a try catch to make sure it's a number. All right. We have enough information at this point from our form to be able to instantiate our ticket transaction object, so we're going to do that. Okay, and we know that we need to pass in 2 strings that are going to be parsed to an enum. So we assign those to type and time. All right, so we have 2 of our fields that have been assigned. Now let's create a value for the cost of ticket, and that's going to depend on whether it's a matinee or evening showing. So we're going to use it if time equals matinee, then we're going to say transaction cost of ticket equals $5.50. And if it's not in matinee, it's going to have to be evening because those are the only 2 showings. And then it's $7.50. Okay, so we're up to 3 of our fields that we've assigned. The only field left is a number of tickets, and we're going to have to do a try catch to make sure that that is number value. So we're going to do that. Okay, we have a try catch, and you can put whatever you would like to alert the user that that needs to be a number. Okay, now that we know that our user has entered a number for the number of tickets, we can make that last field assignment. And I probably should have called it, and the try I should have called it something else because it might be confusing because those are two different number of tickets. Okay, so I've made the last assignment. Now we're ready to calculate our total. We're going to want to use the plus equal so that it can have a running total every time we touch the button or click the button. Okay, so we're going to multiply our cost of tickets times the number of tickets sold. And now all we have to do is display it to a label. So let's go ahead and do that. All right. Now all we have to do is run it and see if it works. Okay, so we run it, and if we make selections, let's say 2 evening adult tickets, it calculates just fine. Okay, but if we run it and we don't make a selection, then we have a problem. And that problem is an argument exception was unhandled. Okay, we're passing in this type, and it can't be parsed, so it's not the correct type of data that this method requires, and so we have an argument exception. So what we have to do is we have to make sure in our form that the two list boxes are selected before we run our program when we click on the button. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going back to our code, and on the button click, let's do an if else, and we'll put everything in the else, and the if will specify the buttons are not clicked. All right, so we're going to do if, and we have a list box. The first one's type, and we're going to do selected index equals -1, or the other one is not selected, or a list box is time, selected index equals -1. So this indicates if either of the text box does not have an item selected, then we're going to show a message box, and we're going to say it's got to be selected. Okay, so we'll tell them you got to select one of those options, and then everything else we're going to put in the else, because we do not want to execute if those are not selected. Okay, so we're only going to run the program if we have a selection. So let's see if that solves our problem. We're going to run it again. Let's build it first, and then we can run it. Okay, let's try no selections. We get the prompt. Let's try one selection. We get the prompt. Okay, now we have both selected, and it works. I hope after this lecture that you feel more comfortable creating a custom class, and that you also know how to use an object and create an object from a class and assign properties to the object, and also to utilize any other member in a class.